Hey, this is a quick review of problems 1 and 2 from homework number 38. And in order to kind of guide you or give you some scaffolding about how to solve these problems, I set up a 5-step procedure here that I'm going to use to solve each one of these. And so I recommend you write these 5 steps down in your notebook and then follow them yourself as you're solving these kind of problems. So let's go ahead and take a look at 1A here. We're asked to find the missing side M. So looking at my first set of steps here, first I need to set a perspective. And that's going to be at one of the two acute angles in the triangle. Now to determine which one, I'm going to set the perspective at wherever I either know the angle itself, the degrees, or where I want to find out. So here, I know the angle here, but I don't know here, and I don't need to find that one out. So I'm going to set my perspective next to L here. Once I do that, the next step here is to label the sides. So we label this one the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. That's always going to be the case. So we've got our hypotenuse here. And then the angle that is across the whole triangle from our perspective. If I'm standing at L and I look across the triangle, the opposite side is the one that I see the full length of from that perspective. And then the side that is next to me, that is the adjacent side. So now that I've labeled the sides, I need to do step 3 here, and that's to choose the trig function that uses the sides that we either have information about or that we need to find out. And so here I can see that I know the length of 4 here is the adjacent side, and I need to find the length of the opposite side. So writing out my magic phrase here, SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA, right? I'm looking at a situation where I'm going to use the opposite side, right? Sine uses opposite here, tangent uses it there, and the adjacent side. So cosine uses adjacent, but so does tangent. I'm going to choose the trig function that uses both of those sides. And here in this case, that's going to be tangent. Okay? So that is step 3. Step 4 is write the equation. When you write a trig function, it's always going to be tangent of something equals something over something, right? And this is going to be an angle, and these are going to be sides. Really, it's a ratio of sides, okay? And of course, in other situations, this might be cosine, this might be sine, but here in this problem, we're using tangent. So in this problem, the angle that we know is 51.3. All right, tangent is opposite over adjacent, so the opposite that we know is m, and the adjacent that we know is 4. All right, so that is how you write the equation, and then we need to solve. Here we're solving for a missing side, so we are going to use our regular trig function. The one thing we have to do, however, is get m by itself. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to multiply both sides by 4, because that way they'll cancel the denominator over on the right side. And what I'll be left with is m equals tangent of 51.3 times 4. And this is what you can plug into your calculator. Let me go ahead and open that up. Tangent of 51.3 times 4. 1 second here. As the calculator boots up, let's clear the screen. So tangent of 51.3, close that parentheses, times 4 equals 4.99. I'm going to round that to 5.0. So here m equals 5.0. There's your answer for 1A. Okay, and we went through the sequential order of all 5 steps, just like that. Let's do the same exact thing for 1B, okay? Set our perspective. Which of the two angles are we going to use? We're going to use the one up here because we need to find this angle, all right? We don't care about this angle down here. So we're going to set our perspective from up top. And from there, we're going to now label the sides. Okay, so let's label the side that's across is the opposite. The side that's next to our perspective here is the adjacent. And then the 15.2 will be the hypotenuse, right? Here, let's go ahead and color code those again. Adjacent, opposite, hypotenuse. Now we need to choose a trig function. Well, we know something about the opposite and something about the hypotenuse. So I'm going to use sine for this one, right? That's the trig function whose ratio is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? Once I've chosen which sine function to use, I'm going to fill in the equation. Remember, sine of something will equal a ratio of two sides. Here, the angle is a variable, z, all right? We don't know, well, it's not really a variable, it's just a placeholder, z. That's what we're going to need to find out. And the ratio of sine is, like I said before, opposite over hypotenuse. Here, the opposite, we know the length of the opposite is 14, and the length of the hypotenuse is 15.2. Okay, so there is our equation. Now we move on to solving. And in this particular problem, we have a missing angle, right? We're trying to find z. When we have a missing angle, we don't use the regular trig function, we use the inverse trig function. So our equation becomes this, z equals the inverse of sine, and we've already found the ratio of 14 over 15.2, and this is what we're going to put in our calculator. The inverse sine of 14 over 15.2. To get to the inverse side, you hit the second key, then sine, and you hit 14 divided by 15.2, close parentheses, 67.08. So I'm going to call it 67.1 degrees is the measure of z. 67.1. So again, you just go down the order of these steps. I encourage you to write these in your notebook so you have them handy next time you'll have to solve a trigonometry problem. Number two, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I will set this problem up for you. So here we are given the slope of the roof. Well, what we can do is we can actually label sides of the roof with, basically, we can make a similar triangle, is what I should say, that is based on the ratio of the rise and run that we are given of the slope of the roof. So our triangle will look like this. We've got for every 12, and this could be inches, centimeters, whatever, for every 12 inches, we'll go with inches, of run on this roof, it raises by 2.5 inches. So we can create a similar triangle with those same proportions. We've got x is an angle here, y is an angle here. All right, so this is the triangle we want to solve. I'd say you should start by solving for x, which means step one would be set your perspective there. Step two, you would label the sides. Opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Once you've done that, you choose which trig function to use. All right, we've got an opposite over here that we know something about, and we know information about the adjacent side. So I'm going to use tangent again. I'm going to set up the equation. Tangent of x equals opposite, which is 2.5 over adjacent 12. Since I'm solving for a missing angle, I need to use the inverse function, the inverse tangent function. So we take the inverse tangent of our ratio that we found, and that's how I'll solve for x. I'll let you go ahead and type that into the calculator, and then once you know x, you can solve y in two different ways. One, you can use the fact that all triangles have 180 degrees, and you can deduce what y is based on that fact. Or you can go ahead and use the same procedure, the steps 1 through 5, and just do it from a different perspective, setting your stickman up here at y. So that's another way you can solve. You should get the same answer using both methods. All right, great. I hope this helps you get a good start on problems 1 and 2 of homework 38.